Well, hey guys, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. Hey, it's getting ready to go out. We got a big class this weekend, and it's picking up some stuff from the local big box store, and happened to run by the sporting goods section and found this. This is a knife that I have not seen before. This is from Ultimate Survival Technologies, UST, and it is their Para Knife FS 3.0, which includes a fire starter. I thought that was pretty interesting. So it was very affordable, less than 20 bucks, so I picked it up. We're going to be starting, I don't know, 14, 16 students, 5, 6 fires apiece today, and be interested to see how this thing holds up and let them give this fire steel a test and see how this knife works as a striker. It does say that it includes the nylon sheath, which includes a flint-based fire starter and puts out high-intensity sparks when using the knife as a striker. The weight of the knife sheath and the fire steel combined is 4 ounces, so it'll be a nice lightweight addition to a kit, and of course it's wrapped in paracord, which is about 5 feet. So we'll take this thing out and give it a try, and after we've put it through a lot of fires and a lot of work this weekend, I'll come back with a future segment and let you know exactly how this piece of kit held up. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about this Ultimate Survival Technology Paracord knife with the fire starter. Now, I didn't use this nearly as much during the class as I thought I was, just because I was having issues with the fire steel. I thought when I first got this that this whole thing was a ferro rod, but in fact it is not. There is a small ferrocerium rod that is attached right here to the back. It's glued on with some type of an epoxy. It looks like there was a groove made in this piece of magnesium. So you actually have a magnesium rod with an attached ferro rod. So first, let's talk about the magnesium itself. Now, with the back of the knife, without a lot of pressure at all, we can create very good shavings of the magnesium on either the tip or anywhere on the back. The spine of the knife is nice and sharp, and it's rolling that magnesium off with ease. It does appear to be a pretty soft magnesium, not as hard as some of those that I've seen. Some of the magnesium rods, you know, they're so hard to shave off to get the magnesium off of it in these small particles that you need, that it makes it, well, it's pretty much impractical for use. I've never been one who really relies a lot on the magnesium. I rely mostly on just a ferro rod and being able to process my tinder, but I can tell you that having something that burns as hot as magnesium at times can come in handy. The military has made these magnesium blocks with the attached ferrocerium rods very popular, and for a reason. They have a purpose. Now we'll scrape up a little pile of this just that quick with it's about the size of a quarter, and then we'll take the ferro rod side, put that right in the center and strike that off, and we get a decent hot flash out of that. But here's what I want to show you, and let me reposition the camera here for just a minute. I'll show you how much of this product we used. Okay, so we moved here where the light's a little bit better, where hopefully you can see. And I want to try to focus in on this piece of magnesium. You can see that we scratched it to where we have a nice flat surface now on the top, because that magnesium removes so easily from the rod. We were able to do that, and of course the flatter it is, the more you're able to scrape off. What concerns me with this product is, look, because of how soft the ferro rod is, look at how much of that I've worn down. There was a completely round ferro rod on this, and I have worn that down almost to the top of that magnesium bar. So I have a lot more magnesium than I have ferro rod left. So that tells me one of two things. Either they expect me to really use a lot of that magnesium, and you saw the amount of heat and the intensity of the flame I was able to get with just a quarter size. So either they're expecting me to use like a $50 size of this magnesium rod, or they thought this ferro rod was going to last a lot longer than it did. So I think you got a lot more magnesium than you've got ferro rod. But as far as its operation and the way that the fire starter works, it works just fine. Just don't plan on getting a lot of fires out of this thing. It's going to be good for an emergency backup to get you just a few fires going, and as long as you're dependent on it that way, I think you'll be okay. The other reason we didn't use it a lot in class is I was just trying the ferro rod and I wasn't getting real good sparks out of it, and that's because this thing comes very heavily coated with some type of a paint type product that protects it from oxidizing, and like you see on most all of your other ferrocerium rods. But it really took quite a bit of work to scrape that off, more than what I was particularly used to for some of the other products that I've used. But once I got that off, the ferrocerium rods started striking a lot better. So a little bit of user error there, but just be aware of that. You need to spend a little bit of time to scratch that coating off before you plan on using it. Let's talk about the knife just a little bit. As far as the back of this 90-degree spine, it does very well. I did strike several other ferrocerium rods with it, and it worked great for that. The knife is probably worth the purchase price just to have as a striker for a ferrocerium rod as a backup somewhere in my kit. The edge retention actually seems to be pretty decent. To tell you the truth, it's not a bad knife. Even though it's stamped right on it, it's a little China-made knife. I wouldn't expect to go out and use this and base my entire survival on it. At least I wouldn't want to. But to have as a backup knife, you know, so far I gotta say it's holding up okay. The Paracord handle is not uncomfortable at all. I had my doubts about that. It works out just fine. But the real selling feature on this is that 90-degree spine for scraping the magnesium. I also use several other magnesium blocks that I have, both harder and softer than the one that came with it, and it did just as good a job as any of the other scrapers that I have. So for a scraper with a cutting edge, you're looking at a pretty good product. As far as the serrated part, I realize they do that for cutting cordage, but I know it's probably not a good practice to even let your hand get on the sharp side of the blade while you're trying to do your scraping with your ferro rod and your magnesium, but I did find that when I brushed up against that, it lets you know it real quick. I'm not fond of serrated edges, but on a knife for this particular purpose, it's probably the way to go. The sheath itself, I'm going to tell you straight up, I just do not like the sheath. It's a very flimsy nylon. There's no way to retain the fire steel in the front of the pouch. It has two closure devices, both right here. We have a Velcro closure that does a nice job of holding the knife, and then we also have a secondary retention, which is a snap buckle in the front, which prevents the knife from coming in and out of the sheath very well. I'll open this up and we'll actually place the knife in there, and I'll try to show you my biggest drawback. Now I realize for the price point on this knife, we're not going to get into a high dollar leather or some type of a Kydex sheath, but in here is one piece of hard plastic that your knife slides on when it goes into this sheath. I found that when I first got this thing that I was missing that piece of plastic the way it was manufactured in there, and I was actually trying to stick the knife into the sheath, and it was like it was going to cut through the sheath. I think if they would have simply have made that to where you had two pieces of plastic and the knife slid in between them, it would have made that a lot less of an issue and would increase the durability of this sheath for very little expense. Also, some way of retaining this fire steel inside would be a nice thing to have. What I did during class was I simply took a piece of bank line and I went through here with a lark's head knot on the front of the fire steel, and then wrapped it around the back and went behind the belt loop here and just tied it off in a simple safety shoestring knot. That way I could get it untied. It would be quick release, but with it being the safety knot, it held pretty well in place. So if you're going to have this outside of the package, outside of your pack somewhere, and you're worried about losing that fire steel, I would definitely take a piece of string and tie that fire steel in there. Other than that, for the price point, you know, I would retain it and keep it in my kit just as a backup. So there's a few points that you can consider. If you see this in your store and you're interested in it, I would encourage you to do that. Until next time, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. God bless, guys.